Hello, you are listening to the GayPress podcast. In this issue, we present you an interview with members of the humanitarian human rights organization New Generation from Armenia.
So first, could you introduce yourself and also a little bit your initiative, its history, and your achievements on the way?
I'm Arman, and here is Hamayak. We are representing New Generation, humanitarian NGO, which is a human rights organization in Armenia. Our organization was established in 1998 with four main directions. It is human rights and advocacy, it is healthcare, and ensuring public health services for key populations in the country.
Whether they have been changing on the way of your existence, because you've been working for a long time. Yes, so what were you starting with, like your expectations of your work, and where are you now? Yes, so are they the same objectives that you have?
Firstly, the organization was working only one of the cities of Armenia, which is called Gyumri, so the second largest city of Armenia. But afterwards, when the organization started growing, we understood that we can cover the whole Armenia, and we started working in all regions of the country. And due to safety and security reasons, our office was moved to the capital, Yerevan city, and in the center of the city. Yeah, we do a lot of work in the field of human rights. So we provide free of charge legal services to community members. We also support them in the formation of legal documents, and we have a representation of attorneys in the courts for strategic litigation cases. We have different cases related to human rights of LGBTI people in the European Court of Human Rights, and one case related to a person who is injecting drugs and he was tortured in a prison. We are also a member of the public group of monitors over the criminal executive institutions of Armenia, and we especially monitor the situation of vulnerable groups and especially LGBT community in the prisons as well. We provide different capacity building trainings to the community members. We support establishing and growing and empowerment of new organizations, community-based organizations. We are the only organization that provides HIV and AIDS prevention services to men who have sex with men, commercial female sex workers, trans people, and we are being supported by the Global Fund to fight AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria. Our human rights activities are mostly funded by the Norwegian Helsinki Committee and other international donors, in frames of which we also work with the police academy and work with the journalists. So we have now our group of journalists who are writing special articles for our alternative media page on our webpage related to the issues of LGBT people in our country.
We also provide humanitarian support not only to key populations in Armenia, but also lately, the war conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan over Nagorno-Karabakh, and we started our initiative for the people of Artsakh and Armenia, and we provided financial support, legal support, and also other hygiene and food assistance to all the wounded soldiers, etc.
So what is the general situation for LGBTQ people in Armenia now? So you are over this revolution. So from Belarus it looks like there is something progressive happening inside Armenia. So, and what is the real situation? Is it safe to be an LGBT person in Armenia? Do you face, do you have some kind of equality and non-discrimination guarantees from the state, maybe? And generally, is it safe and comfortable for you to be LGBTQ people in Armenia now?
When the Velvet Revolution happened in Armenia, we hoped that everything could change for better for LGBTI people in Armenia, and we could live safe, and we could express our thoughts, and we can behave as we want in Armenia. But now, after 3 years after revolution, I must mention that nothing much has changed. The only The only positive thing that happened after the Velvet Revolution is that we can now express ourselves without being afraid, and our voice can be heard. But the decision makers, the government, does not have the will to react all things that's happening around. But the LGBTI topic is touched upon even in a negative way in the area National Assembly, in some decision maker areas, and this is a positive change for me. But on the whole, LGBTI community cannot express themselves as they are, and they cannot freely, especially trans people, they cannot freely use the general things and to do such general things that general public can do.
And in addition, I'd like to add that when we talk about LGBT issues, we talk about two concepts. One is human rights of LGBTI people, and another one is political situation and LGBT issues that are very politicized in our communities. When we talk about, from the side of the Russian propaganda against Europe and European values and, American values or something like that, LGBT issues are always used as a tool, political tool, to show how bad this new government is, for example, by the previous opponents, previous government, sorry. And in this case, our issues are being like doubled. Because from the other hand, when we are having this problem to survive and to actually to express ourselves and to prove that all our rights are equal. On the other hand, this political situation comes and it shows that something, how is it called, perverting is being imported from Europe, and Russia here is the savior of our traditional families and values.
I see the same thing that we face now in Belarus. Actually, they're discussing the possibility to introduce this law that's similar to they have in Russia. So I have another question. Do you have you've told me that you have the kind of like a small pool of journalists who contribute to your website, who write some publications, articles, and so on. But do you have maybe some pool of supportive media or journalists in mainstream media of Armenia? And do you just work with them, have some trainings for them?
Now we're organizing capacity, or we're implementing capacity building and empowerment for the protection of human rights of LGBTI people in Armenia project. And within the project, we are building the capacities of Armenian journalists, mass media representatives, and this project is being implemented with the financial support of Norwegian Helsinki Committee, and we try to engage not only journalists who already write impartial media materials for LGBTI people and LGBTI topic, also other journalists, other mass media representatives who always use LGBTI topic who always use it politicized way, and we try to engage them to organize trainings, capacity building events for these both journalists, so that they can connect each other, they can exchange their thoughts and knowledge and skills in writing impartial coverage on LGBTI issues.
I wonder if you have a kind of anti-discrimination law in Armenia.
This is the point where I wanted to mention. We still don't have it in Armenia, though we started talking about the need of the anti-discrimination law since 2013 or 14, and the law is still stuck in the Ministry of Justice. We have the drafted law, which was reviewed by the European Commission, which was reviewed by the delegation of European Union to Armenia. We have an anti-discrimination coalition in Armenia, which is also working in that direction, and we are a member of the coalition. But the thing is that the legislation is still stuck in the Ministry of Justice. There were some steps being forward before coronavirus started and the war started in Armenia. So every single step that we took now is kind of stopped just because of these problems that we have recently had in our country. But the thing is that even in that draft legislation, sexual orientation and gender identity are not mentioned as the grounds of protection. So we have been fighting a lot for including also SOGI in the legislation as protected grounds, but seems like our Ministry of Justice is not really willing to include it because based on the examples of, for example, Moldova, or Georgia, when we saw a lot of hysteria and a lot of demonstrations against this legislation because it was being explained that this is a legislation only for LGBT people. Our Ministry of Justice is kind of being silent about this right now.
By the way, so you have a little bit complicated, not little bit, but quite complicated situation with this conflict, war conflict, yes. But I wonder if LGBTQ people, there are some protections, for LGBTQ people who are inscripted, to the army. So are there any special laws or bylaws? Because in Belarus, for example, if a person is if a gay person, openly gay person, like Vincuk, for example, a colleague of mine, so that he had to go to the army, to serve in the army, just formally they didn't have grounds not to take him to the army, but informally, so they found some ways just not to take him. Yes, and there are no guarantees, there are no protections, and so on. Unfortunately, what situation like in Armenia?
When people disclose their sexual orientation or gender identity in the decision committee of the army before going to the army, and you know that army is compulsory for our country, the person is sent to the psychiatric hospital for passive psychiatric examination, after which they have a diagnosis of mental disease, and they are released from the army as mentally ill people, which brings to other problems. We had a case which went to the court related to this case, because a person who was released from the army as a gay person, then his driver's license was cancelled because he was considered to be a mentally sick person and he couldn't drive a car. So the case went to the court, and the court actually made a little bit to me, a stupid decision, because the court said, the decision of the court was interpreted like, this is a disease, but this is not that kind of disease that this person cannot drive the car. So dear road police, please give him back to his driver's license. But in case that people are not sure about their safety in the army, they go to this in order to ensure their safety without serving in the army, because we have this kind of unwritten laws in prisons as well as in armies, that if someone's sexual orientation is disclosed, this person becomes the worst and the dirtiest person in that kind of structure, which brings to suicides, which brings to mental illnesses to the person, and actually all the consequences of torture, both mental and physical, which influences a lot on our community.
I wonder, like in Minsk, for example, we don't have any open places where LGBTQ people could meet, could have a cup of coffee in a safe and understanding and friendly atmosphere. So, because there were police raids in the past, and some owners of such cafes, they were urged to change their profile of their work. So now actually there's probably only one cafe in the deep underground, and actually trans people have a problem entering this friendly place, unfortunately, and there were some discussions and arguments over this in the very recent past. Unfortunately, yes. So, but what is the situation like in Armenia? Yes. So, do you have such places where you could meet and each other?
First of all, safe places, safe areas safe spaces for LGBTI people are very small in Armenia, and formal places such as NGOs could be safer places for LGBTI people, but the nightlife for this group is not the best in Europe. Though there are some clubs and some cafes that are safe spaces for LGBTI people, and that they are friendly, and you can enter there. You can get there if you're LGBTI people, but this is not the case for trans people because trans people are not allowed to enter most of the clubs, most of the cafes, and I know only one place which is fully friendly and which is only for not only but very friendly for LGBTI people, and everybody can get there to get some nightlife, dances, etc. But on the whole, we are not in that level that we can have fine nightlife for LGBTI people.
For socializing, from time to time, we organize our own parties,
Oh, really?
own events. One of our biggest events was the World AIDS Day back in 2017. Yeah, when we organized the big queer gathering related to World AIDS Day. It was both like fun and also kind of a little bit educating event related to HIV and AIDS. From time to time, we kind of also ensure these safe spaces for the community to gather, to be socialized, you know, to talk to each other and just to have fun. And we have our camps and schools that also gather our community members. It is called the Life Platform. It is leadership, information, freedom and equality platform for community members, where people gather and both get educated and also spend time together.
And are they the only people from the community who are invited to those events, or do you invite, for example, parents or maybe just friends? Because sometimes we see that it is also important to work with the environment of the people so that they feel really safe.
We engage LGBTI people, their parents, also allies that feel free to express themselves as protectors of human rights of LGBTI people without being LGBTI person. So yeah, we try to establish a platform for socializing for these people, for all.
Is your work seen in mainstream media? Just your groups, like activities? And also, how do you enroll people from the community to your events? Also, so that bad people do not come, so to say, in plain words.
We pay a lot of attention to security. And when we organize something, first of all, we send a special letter to the police, and the police ensures security around the building that we do some event, because recently we had this, it was the International Day against homophobia, biphobia, and transphobia, when we got attacked by our opponents and the haters who just found out our place where we were just doing a gathering, even with participation of international organizations, state bodies, after which we understood that every single event that we do like on public basis, we need to get insurance from the side of the government that we are protected, and we started cooperating with the police department in this case. I would say that this cooperation is really very fruitful right now, in cooperation with when we had it before the revolution. Even though most of the policemen are not educated related to discrimination to specific groups and how to work with specific groups, they now understand their duty, and they understand that they have to protect every single citizen in this country. So when we send a letter for ensuring our security, we get the support from the side of the police, and they come for protection of the building where we gather, for example.
We also pay attention to selection of hotel services and also transportation services, because we had cases that we chose, like we write that we need non-discriminative hotels, staff, or transportation, but sometimes it happens that transportation services, drivers do not agree to transport LGBTI people, and we know it at the last time, and we had a case that we went to a hotel for a live platform, and like a regular live platform, and they said that you are like wearing colorful clothes and you can't enter to our hotel. And now we have only several hotels which we cooperate with, and we also try to engage the staff members of the hotels and other services that we use in our educational events, so that they can know how to work with specific groups, because LGBTI people are a group that they have specific needs.
One more thing where I wanted to add related to police. First time in Armenia ever, with the financial support of the Norwegian Helsinki Committee, we started working with the police academy. And right now, our lawyers and trainers are in the academy, providing a special course to policemen or the future policemen related to discrimination and human rights of LGBTI people. And even we agreed with the administration of the police academy that this is going to be an academic hour for the students. And after the year ends, they will also take exam on that, so they will get points and credits on this time.
Super, that's a great achievement that we can only dream of, actually, especially now.
Yeah, but this was for the first time last year when we kind of achieved this.
What about Pride events? Do you have any? Have you had any in Armenia? Just in the whole history of your country?
One small, but maybe American.
Yeah, we had one or two during our LGBT activism history, small events which cannot be described as prides, and they were just diversity walks somehow in the city, and we were only like 10 to 15 people, having with us like colorful flags, symbols of diversity, but there were always policemen around us, like they were keeping us in a circle so that we could not interact with other people who were passing. But I must say that it is very risky, but now some activists within our national trans people working groups are thinking about having a pride event, like a larger event than just walk, but we're just planning for like 2-3 years later, not for now. And we hope for an atmosphere that we can do our pride event.
Do you think that some maybe political? Sorry for my ignorance. So now, at this present moment of time, I hear about some special relations with Russia, but still, are you on the way to further integration with the European Union? You are in the Council of Europe, as far as I remember. Yes. So could you just tell a little bit more about this? Do those political trends help you, or do they create additional obstacles to you in your work?
We are a member of the Council of Europe, and we have been since I guess the beginning. But the thing is that related to the regulations and requirements of the European Union, it is always very sad to say that these EU structures are always requiring for just marking that this task was done without any examination how it was done and how effective it is for all communities. For example, when when the anti-discrimination legislation was being discussed, and we addressed the question to the delegation of European Union to Armenia that the sexual orientation, gender identity are not there. The answer was that this is not a part of negotiations from our side. So it means that, for example, if there is a task for the country which is actually tending to be a part of the European Union, we just need to see that this exists, and that's enough. This is another problem, for the activists on the local level, because we always need, the kind of like a pressure from the international organizations on the government that if you are getting money for this, then you have to ensure equality for all, for example, right? So in this case, we are facing problems as well.
So presently, just in 2 words, could you say what is your immediate at this moment of time, like your greatest achievement of your organization over the years? So by now that you see that, we are really proud of this. Yes, and the greatest obstacle.
To me, not on behalf of the organization, but to me myself, we are visible. At least we are visible. Even if it makes troubles, at least we are visible, and people already know that these people also exist in the communities and in the societies, which is a very big achievement. Because there were times in Armenia when the topic was not even discussed, like no one exists.
Yes.
So this is a very big achievement. And to me also the biggest obstacle is related to the war now. Yeah, because often when a country is in a war situation, then you need to recover. First of all, you need to recover from the trauma you get during the war and after. When you have thousands of soldiers died during the war, and so sometimes it really kind of makes you not to think about anything else than to, you know, to live with those mothers and parents and families that lost their kids.
Maybe just to finalize our interview, maybe a couple of words. You know, the situation like in Belarus now, yes, so that now human rights defenders and LGBTQ activists in particular, so that independent journalists, so that we face really one of the greatest, probably the greatest obstacle, you know, in our work, and presently, as I say, that parts of teams have to relocate, and just we are thinking over analyzing how to get back to our strategies actually in the present situation and achieve like what we wanted for the short-term and mid-term perspective. Maybe a couple of words also maybe from your experience here in Armenia to human rights defenders, LGBTQ activists in Belarus. How not to fall into despair, how not to lose heart, yes, and not to get depressed and burnt out. Yeah, maybe something that you could just wish, maybe, or advise.
As a religious person, I can answer that from the side of my beliefs. It is the faith that it keeps me, and also it is the belief that everything is going to be okay in the very near future. When you really don't want to get into deep depression, you don't have to kind of create a vision for you, but you always have to create goals that you achieve in your life in order to not be that much depressed. When you make a vision, and of course vision is something that you never reach, we know, it really makes you get depressed. From my personal experience, when you are, when you feel that you are burning out, just leave everything and live your life without any imagination what is going in real life. Just imagine you and your loved ones. Just be yourself wherever you feel comfortable, and be with those who don't really make you depressed.
That's good advice. Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
I must say that activism is not a place where lots of candidates and lots of good things happen. And every time my motive and drive for my activism is that when LGBT activism started, actually, there were more efforts and sacrifices. I remember people who died during their activism. I remember that they strive for better life conditions for their future generations. This is a motive for me, and this drives me to do my best to get a better place. And I understand that my activism could give blossoms and could give results in like for the next generations, and I can. And I might not see what achievements my activism gives, but I try always to do my best. And remembering the past, remembering all the sacrifices we had, we should like look for a bright and more equal future.
Thank you very much. Very interesting interview.